Actually, before we start, I want to show you some technical clues. Pierre has a theory, as I mentioned before, Pierre has a theory that technicals give a heads up as to what's going to happen next. In other words, technical analysis leads fundamentals. And I think some of the time he is right. And there have been some examples of that just lately. And so I'm going to show you that in a moment. The other thing is to note, last time we were in a meeting like this, I said to you, be very careful with the dollar index because even though it looks as though it was breaking higher the other week, what did it do? This is a weekly chart. It once again rejected at this massive major area of previous support and resistance. And as you know, for me, we have not broken the downtrend until 78.6 fib has rejected. And that is what happened here again in the last month. So, and again, we've got the whole number just above it. So again, technical analysis, we are stuck in a range and therefore you do not want to be rushing to long the dollar whilst the dollar is in this area in here, unless you're day trading in and out. And you don't want to be shorting it down here, or if you're getting a dollar short and it starts getting down here, you want to be taking your profit. You're coming down to the whole number. And in recent months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, one time in 8, it has rejected. And in actual fact, yes, you would have lost on this one had you gone long. But the bottom line is 7 to 1, 8 to 1 times. It's come down here. It's bounced back up. So we are still stuck in a range on this pair. Now, the clue that I am referring to, let us find some examples. This is McD divergence. And I was talking with Devon the other day about this, and I think we forgot to discuss this further. McD divergence, if you are not familiar, it means on the charts when we are seeing lower lows, and on the MACD, on the trigger bar, we are seeing higher lows. That is a clue that price is probably going to at least pull back. Now, it doesn't work all the time, but it does work more times than you would think. This is a dollar Swiss. It missed last week. I don't know how this damn thing missed last week. It missed literally by the spread in the end, I think, and has then dropped. And again, this is all about the probability. I explained in recent weeks multiple times we've had multiple reasons on the dollar Swissy to short it. And again, it was down here at the start of the week, I think, when it set off. And so it was 80 odd pips away and it came up and it touched my area to the pip. Unfortunately missed it on live and demo account here, but it's all about this probability thing again. And again, you had multiple reasons. And again, when we look back to the dollar index. Now, I noticed on the S&P that the MACD is not working at all, and it just continues to go up, but I haven't really paid attention to it on there. Bitcoin made a very nice move yesterday on Sunday, and it finally broke through the 55 EMA, which you could say has been in charge for the last few months. And today it has come back down and touched it to the pip. So those of us who are in it are hoping it's going to set off again. Gold is dropping, and I'm going to cover that in a moment in more detail. Dollar yen. So the dollar yen, I have an order to buy on a pullback down here. We can see it's in a clear weekly up channel. On a weekly, I don't have any reasons to take the trade where I am looking to take the trade. But here I have multiple reasons on the daily. In fact, thinking about it, probably need to now move that to there. And I still have multiple reasons here because I have 61.8 fib just below 55 EMA. It is one of those I've toyed with the idea of splitting the order, part here and part there. The only thing that concerns me now about this is the political situation in Japan, and also the fact that Trump did a deal with them yesterday, which he's been shouting from the rooftops as well. So we may get a bigger pullback. If it starts to look as though that's the case, then I may take this one out and definitely then just have this one down here. And again, the thesis would be if this thing drops, if it's gonna stop anywhere, it's probably going to stop there. So that is my thinking
Just
on
gonna
that.
interrupt you. Sorry, the
Yeah.
MACD divergence there as well.
I didn't want to say anything about that, Ashley, for reasons I explained, but do you want to tell them now what you did?
Well, I already shared it in the forum, but I'll get to it
Ah, right,
later.
okay. So Ashley used this yesterday. I mean, it's counter trend. It doesn't have the 5 reasons, but he was using it on his strategy. And this was a clue that this was going to turn back down again. And this was before the meeting, the shouting from Trump about how great this deal is done with Japan. So on that occasion, then Trump, Pierre was right. So that's why I didn't mention it, Ashley, but well spotted. CAD yen, no, because the lower high is replicated there. Pound New Zealand, we had this a while ago. So the pound New Zealand was clearly going up. You've got higher high here, higher high there, and you've got equal going on here. And then it turned and dropped. Pound USD is in the middle of nowhere at the minute. It's really tricky. Yeah, not interested in that one. And then a few others I saw. NZD is a bit weird because it's normally correlated with the AUD, and the AUD is going up and the NZD is more short. Again, you had McD divergence going on here. And so there's lots of examples at the moment. That is not one of them. And then the other thing is about this idea of taking more than one trade on a pair. This is another MACD example here. So the euro pound MACD divergence example here again. So this is in real time now. This suggests that this pair is going to drop. And if we look to the left, it is major previous support and resistance has gone on in here as well. So let's see how this pans out. Personally, I'm not in of a mind to short it here because I don't have the multiple reasons. But down here, I've put two levels in for this pair. And I'm going to show you something else in a moment as well. So if you were trading this from a daily or a weekly, then this is not a bad place to be in because this is currently 120 pips away and it only does 30 in a day. So if we get some news out in the next few days and the Trump deal or something happens, then that is a probable area for this to bounce for multiple reasons again. And so that is one area. The next area, if we get an extraordinary move because of something that happens somewhere, or if that one fails, then it drops further, I would take it here. And this for me would be an A plus trade for multiple reasons. And one of the multiple reasons is you've got twice the risk to here and you've got 8 times the risk to there. But what you need to do is you have to split. So let's say you're going to risk, for math's sake, $100 on this, then the lot sizes will be different because that one is only risking 20 and that one is risking 25, 30. So you have to calculate the $100 between the two. And it may well be that that one's risking 60 and this one's risking 40, which means the lot sizes are bigger, smaller rather. So just get in the habit of looking and seeing what's going on. Another thing to note, last time I was with you, I was explaining why 140 on the Canadian dollar, USD CAD, is a massive area going back to 2004, I think it was. In 2020, it was massive. And these are weekly, so these are twice that rejected there, then it went through, then it was major support and resistance again, and all the way back here, this is 2009 and beyond. So what I was saying is, do not be in a rush to long it here. Now, on this occasion, you may have had a win, but where you were going to put your stop, it doesn't fit any reasons at all because of this 5 reasons scenario. However, on a daily, we do have the potential, and this is one I think on my live account I've split this slightly, and now that the EMA is moved, I need to move it there because otherwise the danger is it's going to touch the EMA and bounce off. Here I have a 50 pip stop for a potential 1 to 3 risk reward ratio, but again, if it gets to 140, I would take 80% of it off and then hope the rest's going to go on, and be careful because there's Canadian news today. So that's some technical analysis. That is talking about using MACD divergence. I only use it for MACD divergence, the MACD. So on Monday, Mark to Market posted that we were in a risk on environment, and we could see that, and I've shown you this many, many times, we could see that on Monday ourselves. So get in the habit of reading Mark to Market, and he explains it in more detail. But if you look at the setup I have on TradingView, it was apparent straight away because Bitcoin was breaking higher, crypto was livening up, and then as the day progressed, gold has been dropping, and gold now is coming down to 78.6 fib. And I was talking to a client this morning, he said, should I sell my gold? And I said, well, it's the insurance policy against everything else that we're doing. I understand your thinking, but if Trump falls out with China this week and it all ends in tears, or the big results that are coming out of the US this week for the FANG stocks is worse than expected, then this could just as easily flip back up. The other thing to note, dependent on your tax jurisdiction, you may have to, if you've been in this like me since it was $1,700 and buying on the way up, you would have to pay tax on the sale of it. And the issue becomes if this suddenly flips the other way and back in, you're then going to kick yourself and say, oh crap, I wish I hadn't sold it. And those of you who haven't bought it thus far because it was too expensive are now probably saying, well, it might go further now. I don't know whether to buy. So for me, my portfolio is still balanced. My mining stocks are down, my crypto stocks are up, my general stocks are up, and so the whole thing is balanced for me. Yes, it's tempting to sell, but as I say, especially with Trump around, it's just so easy that for one thing or another that he says, and off we go. And again, silver. Yes, we're now breaking a trend line. The 55 EMA has been crucial on many of my stock pairs the other day. So if this breaks, okay, it's a buying opportunity to me. The fundamentals for me haven't changed. And this is where if you're looking at these kind of things as an investment, you have to take the bigger picture as to what's going on. But this was apparent that what was going on is risk on. Risk on is when people are more willing to take risk on buy riskier assets and they sell things like gold and silver. And so therefore they've taken a hit and the miners have taken a hit. So this is my stock holdings. And so gold's down, the S&P, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. But the thing is, if Trump does a deal that he trumpets, no pun intended, but if he can trumpet a deal with China, this is quite possibly going to go to the moon for a while. And the same with the Nasdaq. Equally, if he falls out with him and he takes a huff again, it could easily pull back down again. So once again, I'm not going to sell the gold and silver because of that. It could be that I'm going to go through some pain with gold and silver for the next few months until or unless there is a reversal. But that's my thinking. So all my mining stocks are down. When I was looking the other day, many of them are currently sat either at 78.6 fib or with a 55 EMA is where they're at the moment. So the flip side, for those of you who, like me, are contrarian, is, well, this is a buying opportunity because now they're 20% cheaper than they were last week. And for me, remember, I only will buy if it can make at least 25% to the recent high. So for me, this is EDR, which is the Canadian version, or this is the same company, EXK. It's down at major support and resistance. It's down at the 55 EMA. If I buy it today, it would be 33% to where it was 10 days ago. I think that the underlying need for physical silver is still there, and therefore I am willing to grit my teeth and go with it. At the minute, cannabis is drifting as well. And so again, I am taking a longer view with this. I have a lot of options on this that pay out up till March. And I also have a lot of stocks on it. I bought some more of this one the other day. And if it comes lower down here, I will buy more because I have the courage of my conviction and because I have done so much research into this and I know a lot about it. I think I'm right. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. And then general stocks yesterday have gone up. And so this is, again, counterbalancing. I don't have massive amounts of the FANG stocks, but a lot of this was going up. And then yesterday, some of the Bitcoin miners were going up. And once again, if you felt that you'd missed out on the Bitcoin miners, you had the opportunity the other day to buy CIFR, which I've shown you before. And in 4 days, it's up 40%, is it? Where have we gone? 4 days, it's up 35% on a stock. And again, this one, I put the levels in. I had alarms set on this for CleanSpark at 16. It was at $24 2 weeks ago. So all of this is based on my joining the dots of what is going on. And as I've shown you, I have been buying quantum computing. Now, there's some great opportunities on this the other week. And I did buy some more ARQ, which I shared with the investing group. I don't know if I shared it with you guys last time. I don't know if you were here. But this, from where I bought the other day, is up 17%. It was up 20% yesterday. It's 50% to where it was 2 weeks ago. What is going on at the moment? The next big thing after AI is quantum computing and rare earths. And so with quantum computing, the likes of Google, there was an announcement last week that they've spent yet more money investing into quantum computing. They're all fighting to be top dog. And these are the kind of stocks that you could day trade if you want to trade, and the potential profit on it is significant. And qubits came down, touched the 78.6, touched the 55 EMA to the pip. I think I had a trend line in as well, and that is up from there 35%, 30%, 70% to where it was 10 days ago. But it takes some cojones, and it might go lower. So this is why I balance it the way they did. I bought some more uranium last week. I bought some UROI in here and some more at the 55 and previous major support and resistance. Why? Because everybody's got bored at the minute, but the demand for uranium is still there. And therefore, yes, it's contrarian, but I don't want to be like the mugs who buy everything at, the ones who bought gold at the top the other week. And again, last time I shared with you, the week before last, all the big companies were suddenly talking about gold and getting into the mining stocks. Why? Because they are going to dump it when it go up here. So you have to learn and understand what's going on. And particularly with Bitcoin, because I said to you last week, Larry Fink and BlackRock the week before last were saying that stock market's looking very, very dangerous. Everybody should be thinking of getting out, was the inference from him, from Goldman Sachs and from JP Morgan. And on the Monday, after the biggest liquidation in Bitcoin, I think ever, he actually came out and said that Bitcoin was as good as gold. I mean, it's taking the piss, if you're really stupid enough to not see that they're like a cat with a mouse just playing with it between its paws and flicking it from one to the other. So that's what I'm doing. That's why. But this is fundamental. So I started off by showing you things technically and Pierre's theory, which I do have some sympathy with, and I think he's right some of the time, and it's certainly a clue. But a lot of what I am doing is based on fundamentals. Now, I bought some REMX the other day, which is VanEck rare earth. And as we know, the Chinese have cornered the market of it, and this is what Trump has got upset about. So I bought it in here the other week. Can't remember. I think this one struggles to the 25%. So it's only 20, but that is a mixture of rare earth metals. And then I also have bought some of Brazilian rare earth, and I can't remember where the hell I did that one. So fundamentally, if you don't understand it, read mark to market. He goes into it in a level that everybody can understand. And the more you understand, the more able you are to make good investing and trading decisions. And then he talks about Japan, and he talks about the trade talks. And yesterday, Trump shouting from the rooftops, they've done a great deal with Japan, and some of it's to do with rare earths. Pierre's theory played out because McD divergence gave the clue before the dollar yen turned round. And this is a detailed explanation of what they talked about and what the deal is. And then this week, you've got the FANG stocks all reporting, I think the majority of them. They're talking here about 100 billion stock swings expose the fragility beneath Wall Street. So as we say, the week before last, oops, look lads, big guys are telling you it's all going to drop. Why? Because they wanted to buy it cheaper. And then suddenly everybody's piling back in. And they're piling back into the levels which really are getting really creepy, scary, that fund managers now have the lowest allocation to cash in more than a decade. Well, remember, Warren Buffett is sat on a mountain of cash, and most people I know that professionally trade have been pulling cash out to have money for the drops. Well, this lot now, by the look of it, have gone all in, which it means that we could well be on for a blow off top. As ever, pay attention to the news. Tomorrow, you've got in the middle of the night Aussie CPI, which is really important. So if you're in an Australian trade, get out before that news. And then tomorrow as well during the day, you've got, the afternoon UK time, you've got the rate statement and the rate from Canada. It's expected to be cut by 0.25. If they cut it by more, don't cut it, or they put it up, that would cause ructions. And wait until after the press conference, because again, they could do something here and then contradict it in here. And then the big event tomorrow is the Fed fund rate. So US, everybody and his dog thinks they're going to cut it by 0.25. If Powell wants to play silly beggars and doesn't, there will be hell on, and that could really rock the market. So again, be out of everything before then. And if it all comes out and it's okay, listen to the press conference, wait until he's finished, because he's a beggar for doing this. They do one thing and he says another. So wait until that's out of the way. If it all goes nuts, I tend to wait until London opens in the morning, because by the time this comes out, London has closed and the London traders are missing. Then you've got the same scenario for the yen on Thursday. You're going to trade the yen, then don't be in it while they're doing this. So again, this is tiptoeing around the news. Now, talking of crypto and other things, so I am heavily involved in crypto. This is one that a friend of mine is convinced is going to go to the moon. This is the Trump brothers are heavily involved. And I did say to him a few weeks ago, I said, just bear in mind that everything that's gone on with Trump thus far has generally meant that they've made a fortune and Joe Public hasn't. But what they are looking at, they are pushing to tokenize real estate. So in the future, Mr. Trump will not be in front of a court because if he has inflated the value of his real estate. Oh, he could still do that. Because now you can buy a stake, and I suspect they probably will do it with Trump Towers. You can buy a piece of Trump Towers and it will be tokenized and it will be on the blockchain that you own it. The other thing is, in the background, the cannabis thing is still going on. There are still things taking place. Then again, hedge funds have increased net exposure to semiconductor stocks. So if you're in AMD like me and some of the other ones, then at the moment they are still putting money into and are exposed to those. Then again, they will pull the plug first and you may be left holding the baby. So think about taking some profit. And then again, margin debt. The Bitcoin crash the other week bankrupted a lot of youngsters, I would class them as younger people who have made millions out of crypto in the last few years and literally lost the lot. And this is why I never use leverage on crypto, because if you're leveraging, and I talked to Tianis the other day, and he was telling me somebody he knows, he's living in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and he was telling me that a guy that he works with kept coming into work on a Monday and said, "Oh, I made 10 grand at the weekend. I did this and I did that," because he was leveraged 50 to 1 on Bitcoin, lost 300 grand, way over his levels, straight into margin, and he's having to sell his, I think it's a Porsche and a boat to pay his margin. So don't use margin, in my opinion, on crypto. Stocks, sometimes it has a benefit and a use, but again, this has got the signs that it's getting into scary territory. So today, Visa are reporting, some of the other bigger ones in here, and Wednesday it's Microsoft, Google, Meta. The results so far this year from these companies have been better than expected. So if that continues, then you wouldn't expect the stock market to continue to go up. And then on Thursday, you've got Apple and Amazon, Lilly, MasterCard, Shell. So lots of big companies reporting this week, all of which have the ability to rock the market. Then Canada Carney downplays the Trump thing. And I thought initially it was just Trump being thin-skinned again, because there was a Canadian politician has paid for adverts in the US quoting Ronald Reagan. But when you read into it a little further, I was reading that the Ronald Reagan Foundation have come out and said the way that this guy, the Canadian guy, has taken it out of context is not what Ronald Reagan was talking about. And also in this article, they quite rightly say that the Canadians are being so hypocritical because they have got huge tariffs on the US. And I think dairy in particular, until recently, there was 200% tariffs on dairy products going across the border. And also they're talking about they put 100% tariffs on China and steel. So, they're not squeaky clean, aren't the Canadians? So I do understand a little better why he's doing it. And then this is the big event of the week. So last week, I mean, this guy don't give a shit. He's trying to dominate him. You would think, I read an interesting article at the weekend, and the author was saying that Trump measures his performance on a daily basis by the stock market being green. And I talked about this before. Coming into the midterms next year, he cannot afford a crash. Unless they get a short-term crash now and then everything's hunky-dory and going way back up again in next year. So he wants to try to keep the stock market going. But he has a valid point about these rare earths. And I'm not a fan of the BBC, but the title caught my eye. And they do control the rare earths. And apparently they control up to 90%. Why? Because they've spent the last 25 years buying huge swathes of land in South Africa and South America with rare earth and other minerals, whilst the West, and again, I talked to a friend this morning about it, the Chinese are planning 100 years in advance, and they don't care about environmental concerns. If they need to open a new coal mine tomorrow, they'll do it. Whereas the West can take 10 years to get round to getting anything passed. So lots of things going on. There's also on the subject of this trying to get away from the dependence on China, and this should be good for the economy, Aussie economy as well, is he's done a deal with Australia about rare earth minerals. And Australia is in a strange position that they have all these minerals. And Craig, one of my private clients who's a banker in Australia, and he lends money to the mining industry there, says the issue Australia has got, they've got all these minerals and iron ore and all the rest of it, but they don't process anything. They sell it to other countries, and they're the ones then that control their sales. And so this could be a very good deal for Australia as well as for Trump. This is from ABC Australia, giving an Australian perspective on it. So much going on in the background. Shown you this lots of times before, but this is why Australia has a big issue, is China. And I'm going to take a sip of my tea. There was an article this week in the Telegraph in the UK, and it's the Chinese ambassador. I started reading this article and I thought it sounds like an advert for the Chinese Communist Party, and it turned out it is. But he, like Putin, to do with the Ukrainian situation, is quoting things that have been agreements that have been made in the past by the British with China and also with other countries. And they're talking about their claim on Taiwan. As far as they're concerned, it's theirs. And as I've said before, if they march into Taiwan, Australia is screwed because 37% of what they make goes to China. And again, it's minerals, it's things that they don't process themselves, at least at the moment. And I don't think they've got the workforce to do it either, I am guessing. So try to join the dots. If this happens, how's it going to impact that? It's obvious. The Americans the other week actually bought shares, I believe, in a rare earth company. So, you know, everybody and his dog is flagging the fact that rare earths are a massive issue. And therefore, if Trump's buying shares in companies in America, literally the US government by taking stocks in an American company to protect it, then clearly there are buying opportunities for that as well. Now, quickly, I'm going to make sure I leave Ashley enough time today. Other things going on in the background with crypto. This is a story from Bloomberg. You have to pay for that, but I found it somewhere else. He's poised, allegedly, to nominate Michael Selig as the next CFTC chairman. Well, that's important. Why? Because Michael Selig is also seen as a very positive pick for crypto. And again, all of the things going on in the background, as I've explained to you in detail before, it's just a drip of positive steps towards mainstream adoption of crypto, in my opinion. And then this is to do with crypto.com, one of my holdings. And you will, if you're into sport, you will see them. They sponsor the Formula One racing. They sponsor, I think, the LA Dome. They have banking licenses in different countries, and they're now trying to get a national trust bank license in America, which again makes crypto more legitimate. Robert Kiyosaki, he's talked about it. Kiyosaki has been predicting for the last 4 years that on the following next Tuesday, a week on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, the markets are going to crash. Oh, I got it wrong. It's next week. So I don't pay too much attention to Mr. Kiyosaki these days. This one is Hedera, one of the ones that we bought last year when Trump got into power. This was the one that went up 550% in 10 days. Some of these spikes on TradingView I haven't seen replicated elsewhere, but this was the Trump crash the other week. It shot up the other day because they will have an ETF going live today, which means the big funds can now start to buy this. And thus far today, it has rejected at the 200 EMA and at the trend line. So I have an alarm set in here, but this has the potential maybe for a day trade today, not financial advice, and it's high risk, but it has the potential to go 80% to where it was in January, and maybe even more to the moon. Maybe we get another 500%. Technically, it's not broke the EMA, so you might be ultra cautious. It may drop because the take up is not as great initially, but it's very interesting that that might be the thing. And the other thing, people say, where do you get your news from? Well, if you use TradingView, there's a lot of news down here. So it goes into detail about what's going on. And this is the reason why I bought it back in November, again, was because this is one of Trump's America crypto first. And then here, finally, this is Eric Trump teasing about the tokenized property plan, as I just explained to you earlier. Right, I went over by 2 minutes, so just quickly let me check some questions if there's anything on here. Oh, right, it said, Stefan says that the Zoom mentioned the changes on the time. That was good. Zoom told us. Zoom tells us everything now. It's now watching everything and gives us a summary at the end. Stefan also says the Reagan Group is run by Trump PAC, so they're lying about the ad. Well, that's your opinion, Stefan. And as I know, there's no middle ground anymore. You either believe it or you don't believe it. But anyway, it's by the by. He's reacted in the way he has, and he has a bugbear with Canada anyway. And I say, whether it's because he's thin-skinned or whether it's the truth, I don't know. I just know that he has the ability to rock the markets in a heartbeat. Right, over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Mark.